Okay. All right.
Why was our points nuked?
I'll get to that. So students who are trying to get the copy, lovely Trey, thank you for your lovely singing. For students who needed, get out your notes guys, who needed to copy down the diagram for notes, there you go with your lovely mutant crab, which you heard in audio, but now need
The notes are on YouTube. Yeah,
the crab. Right. Anyway, so I hope that helps for any students who didn't get that and still need it. In terms of notes, you want to get those out because we'll get going here. Gabe had a question regarding the Congress assignment, which I know a couple other people did too. Sarah emailed me yesterday about like what are we looking for with the source. So hopefully, Gabe, I can answer your question and answer Sarah's. I emailed her one too. But the response is, the assignment's paragraph that explains your bill, I don't need Sammy it to be in any format. I don't need it like sometimes you see online, even the source that the sub try to give you, I don't need it like line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4, subsection A, subsection B. I don't need any of that. You can if you want. I just need a paragraph where you explain what the bill is doing. Paragraph form, nothing fancy. Typed up, paragraph. You'll probably need like at least a paragraph to explain it, right? Don't be any shorter than that. So 5 sentences or something. If you do that, that's the format I need. I don't need the source in the bill itself. I need the source in the speech. Does that make sense? Alina's looking at me fine. Yes, what? So, I'll say it one more time. For the Congress assignment, the bill that you turn in, and Sarah, you got my email, right?
I forgot to look.
But I was just telling him that you need to have just paragraph form for the bill. That's all. I don't need any specific format.
You need 4 sections.
Yep. I know. Just keep it simple. You can, if you want like full legislation mode, Maisie in the debate realm, like you can go all specific. We're not looking for that. We just need a paragraph form. Alina, that's what we need. I don't need the source in the actual bill, meaning the source that you cite according to Newsweek, according to New York Times, according to Washington Post, whatever. I need that source where?
In your speech thing.
There you go, Spencer. So technically so. In the speech thing. Yeah. So Lena, is that? So you guys are at 145. Yes. Sorry, what was that?
I don't know. I just feel like I didn't see that name, but I just can't count.
I feel like we're going single ball mode.
You guys are like, wow.
Yes, that.
We're going single ball.
Kennedy?
What does that even mean?
I don't know, but I think it's that. Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. Exactly. So, anyway. Gabe, the assignment, the speech has to be 2 minutes and 30 seconds to 3 minutes to get full credit with a source in it. I don't need any notes or any turned-in speech. You just have to have timed it before. And as Talia said, you can go like super slow if you want to hit the time. That's okay. But you have max of 3 minutes. Let me set the rules. While we're Senate, and yes, you can filibuster. The traditional thing is 3 minutes, right? Right. So Sarah, that's it, and the source in the speech, not in the bill. I think that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Alina, you're good on that now? Okay, cool. Gabe? Yes, yeah, those haven't timed out on Canvas, but I think I've got some extra copies.
Okay.
I think. Both for the assignment and the notes. I hope you guys, I know Sophie was having sort of like consternation on what am I going to do? Like my topic, I don't know what I'm going to do. I hope yesterday, as I promised you, you'd have a day to work on it. I had a work conference, which I'll tell you about in a second, which I found interesting, for Southwest China yesterday, which was really unique. And Olivia heard about this already. But I hope yesterday you used the time to try to find a topic area that you might want to delve into.
So, like, how realistic does it have to be?
It can be the whole gamut of like, okay, I do want a real bill. Unlike the island assignment, and Dane mentioned this too, like I don't want it to be like fanciful, like we're going to create unicorns with hybrid genetic gene splicing.
I was thinking more like the Patriot Act, but it doesn't just extend to terrorists, but more like everyone.
Yeah, you can, but again, don't get, and Olivia's ears are perked now, don't get too concerning and dark and dystopian, right? But honestly, to have more surveillance would be in the realm of reason. So
China, they already have a lot of that. And
Yeah, you can make that. You can. That's good.
There's only some human rights violations there.
But you don't want it to go to the point where like you revamp the whole governance structure,
Okay.
and I think Dane, we were saying like getting rid of the Constitution or something like that's what we.
So nothing too extreme.
Correct. But you can go big picture that way. You can also go small picture, like literally changing the dress code here at Green Canyon.
Could we go into not taking away the Constitution, but what's the word?
An amendment?
No.
Revising it?
Yeah. Like
Okay.
we like change some things about it. Like,
Yes. And Libby did some good discovery on the whole like 60,000 mark. I believe that was the number for like the representatives.
He was 30.
30. Okay, 30,000.
Or they can do.
That's so bad. We didn't even know it because it's sort
Or
of
they
forgotten.
someone
right?
can do.
So what I'm saying, Talia, is not a full revision of the Constitution. However, you can do an amendment because a bill is still in Congress, as you'll see. You can do an amendment where the Congress actually will propose the amendments, usually through 2/3 of Congress. You can do a constitutional amendment where it changes something vitally within the Constitution.
But we couldn't change the Constitution to making it more like in today's wording, like
Correct, like-
simplifying it almost.
Correct. I see what you're saying. You could add an amendment that changes a big section of it, that changes like our understanding of the 10th Amendment, where you could say, from here on in henceforth, the 28th Amendment of the Constitution will instead show that states have more leeway in what they get to do or not. Like we can reread the Constitution in a way.
Yeah.
That's fine, but still keep it limited. I don't want it to be like
A whole new Constitution.
correct,
Can we do a real
because you
world
can do an
version?
amendment,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And we can debate on the amendment. I've had people, good point, who have wanted to repeal the Second Amendment, for instance, right? Which is like, hey, controversial, that's allowed. That changes a big part of our Constitution, but that's like within the realm of reason. On the low end, though, you can do a local thing on like dress code or school schedule or whatever, COVID, how we're handling it, anything like that. Yeah.
Can we do like?
Talia, does that help you?
Yes, a lot. Thank you.
Okay, Sarah?
I think I know the answer to this, but you can't like say you want to keep the Second Amendment, right?
Like to limit.
Now, what you can do in the
Just
amendment.
make an amendment that says the Second Amendment can be.
Right, now, because it doesn't work in that way, because you could ultimately pass one that gets rid of that. What you could do is pass legislation that relaxes current regulations on assault rifles. So like for the Second Amendment, the one like thing that the NRA is like, we have some infringement on these rights, it's specifically for assault rifles
Yeah.
that the federal government has gotten away with. And you could say, let's relax those restraints. Does that make sense? Like you could strengthen the Second Amendment.
Okay.
You could do that. You could, absolutely. Gabe, last thing we'll get into.
Yeah, so I was wondering, what about like current political issues? Like, I know with RGB's death,
Yep.
they're, with the nominee,
Yeah.
Democrats are threatening if you do add, if Trump adds a nominee, they're going to, I forgot the term, or they add more.
Court packing, right?
Yeah,
You're talking about court
pack the
packing.
court.
Pack the court. And you could do a law, yeah, you could present that. The Democrats, by the way, have walked that back, even if the nominee goes through and is confirmed and all
They
that.
said they're not going.
Because they feel like that would set, though they're upset, understandably, the more moderate members, even Nancy Pelosi is saying like, let's not do that because it would just,
Because the Republicans can do that too.
Because
Yeah,
if
right,
the
like it's-
Republican takes office,
Because didn't they,
You got
wasn't
it.
there like,
You got it.
they changed something, oh yeah, filibustering. I remember they
And-
removed filibustering in the, when they have like a federal or government something like nominee.
well, they were threatening as well, not just court packing, but to also get rid of the filibuster.
I thought they already did that though.
No, it's still
With
there.
like federal or like high, it was like something,
Now, there is an angle on, not necessarily on filibustering, but on, it's like filibustering for interim appointments. It's like very narrow. Like, you're right, I don't think you're wrong. That nuclear option, they
yeah,
try
I
to get rid
remember
of.
that the nuclear.
That's what they're calling nuclear option. But in general, filibustering still
But
exists.
then like the Republicans did that too, and it
Correct,
seemed
right?
like-
Yes, yeah. So Sarah's saying if one does it, then it could happen the other way. So they have said that they won't. But Gabe, you could do a bill saying that we're going to pack the court because you don't even need an amendment for that. Like you could do that. You absolutely could. Yes, Esther, last name.
Do we have to like make a plan of execution or just the bill?
I love it. Just the bill and the actual typed up part. You could, if you want to get specific, put in there. If you had specifics in your actual speech, I might throw some extra credit your way, but that's not expected. You don't need to actually have the plan to execute the policy. Give me some specifics. Don't just say like, we're gonna give everybody free healthcare. Like give me a little bit, like by increasing general taxes 10% or whatever. But you'll need to have like, and we're gonna give it to the Department of Health and Homeland Security and, or HHS. Department of, somebody look it up on their phone. Department or HHS, look it up for me, federal HHS. That's gonna bug me. It's one of the department's cabinet members. Anyway, Esther, I hope that answers your question there. Okay, good stuff. Sophie, I am curious, did you find a category, a general area that you might want to go into? A little bit? Okay, all right, so somewhat of a mission accomplished. Yes, Kennedy?
What do you want to know about it?
What's it stand for?
Health and Human Services.
Health and Human, I said Health and Homeland. That's Department of Homeland Security, Brendan. I'm mixing it up there. Thank you very much.
Also, Olivia should get a few points because she gave a really good devotional today in seminary.
Olivia?
Yeah, true story.
I did.
I will.
It was a good
See, now I feel like I'm getting baited here. Like if I put the point on, I will.
No, I will bring.
Okay, you know, Tyler, I'm all worried. I put a.
Are you supposed? No, wait, one more.
talk
For
too. Is your Morningside type thing,
We
or?
won volleyball and soccer.
Awesome.
One? Oh, no.
Look at Casey's nails.
Whoa!
That's because of soccer, so give her more points. 'Cause she's
Okay, now I do want to break this down, and sorry for the YouTube audience here, but I want to be clear to digress. That's awesome for volleyball because you guys have had a couple like rough ones, it seems.
Yeah, freaking
Right?
sucks.
Right?
I'm so happy we won.
You need a dub. You just need a dub.
And they were a good team. Like we lost to Ridgeline in 4, and they beat Ridgeline.
That's
And then
good.
we beat them,
Good. It's
so.
not just like a token victory. Very cool.
Okay, one more for the report
And the
by Sarah.
soccer game you guys won. Who did you play?
Bear River.
Bear River. Okay. So then,
Did you Mercer?
Paisley. Paisley.
Just at the Skype game Tuesday, like I got elbowed and then shoved, and then I went to catch myself and I broke.
You
should give some
dirty
couple of
SOBs,
points.
so no sportsmanship
Hey,
whatsoever.
so Casey.
We don't either.
So Paisley, I have to
We play
say.
better than Skyview does.
Can I say something?
No.
Yes, I may. Shut up, listen. I may say something.
Hey.
I am on the sidelines during football games sometimes, and trust me, I hear some very, even from my dad, bless his heart.
We love you, Craig.
We love you, Craig. But I have heard some very gruesome things. We do have a hit list, believe it or not.
Yes.
We have some people. We had one coach. I'm not saying who. Steven said that we need to take out ice. Shut up and sit down.
Oh my hell!
Listen.
All right, Tyler.
points for
Tyler,
this.
wrap it up.
Wrap it up. Okay. Yes, Stevens, tell some players, Jackson and Regan, not to mention anything, to break ice sled, to bust it in half.
Damn right he did.
Yeah, and that is sportsmanship.
Do you know what they did?
They haven't come CDF work.
At least we don't put our flashlights up in an L and have our cheerleaders signal.
We tried.
Oh,
We tried, but our student section, no offense, this year sucks ass. That we couldn't even spell. It was just a random dot.
I'm gonna give you one rebuttal, and then we gotta call it. Okay.
No,
All right, Talia, round of applause for Talia. Wait, his rebuttal was mountain crest?
Take some.
Okay, applauding that fact.
Take mountain. No.
Shut up, Chris.
You said Skyview.
One rebuttal.
Jay, do you know how dirty Skyview plays?
Yes, I
Okay,
played
do
against
you
them.
do know?
All right, Talia, he let you talk. He'll talk.
Okay, so now it's my turn. Okay, we have the best sportsmanship in the state. Okay, not just by my opinion, by Jen Whitaker, director of the Utah High School Athletics Association. She has said, quote, Green Canyon has the best administration and best sportsmanship, not only in Cache County School District, but in the entire
What
state.
year
Hang
did
on,
she say that? What
no.
year did she say that?
No, she actually said that earlier this fall when I got to talk to her. So thank
Before
you.
we started playing.
No, actually it was 2 games.
All right, Talia, let him finish.
Okay, and at least we don't have 6 coaches get fired like Mountain Crest did for dropping the F-bomb and chewing tobacco on the field. So yes, no football program is perfect, but we are way better than most. Thank you.
All right, round of applause there. Okay. So, as the adjudicator here, thank you, actually, Talia and Tyler, for the spirited debate. I actually was quite impressed, both with the recall of facts and your
intensity and passion.
the passion, but also you calling a couple things when one was that said, and the idea of how it is, good counters.
I can't even believe
I was
you would
impressed.
No, like as a son of a coach, I would never bash on my own dad's team.
I'm not bashing on
You
my
are.
dad's
You
You're
are.
right,
You
you're
are.
just bashing on his
Tyler.
assistant coach.
I'm bashing because he said some pretty foul
You said his name. That's not even up for debate.
Listen. I'm not one said. I never said Skyline was good sportsmanship. I'm saying Canyon isn't what it's put to be.
I think it's better than any other school.
This is like reality TV, right?
I don't know, at least I stand up for my dad and his coaching staff. That's all I have to say.
I'm about to bust someone's face off.
Do it, I dare you.
Oh no.
All right, on this.
Give them both boxing gloves, take them out in the hallway, and like.
So on this happy Friday, I ask for civility and decorum in every way possible. Talia, thank you guys for sharing those opinions on it. In terms of sportsmanship, that's a whole other angle for the school year. And yes.
Why? Oh, because of them?
Caitlin, all right. So, with that said, I am grateful, I will say, for the general sportsmanship I've seen at the events. One of the salty angles that can easily happen for students is going back to the happiness of winning, against, is it Bear River? Sorry, Bear River. When you guys, right, when you feel like you're in a rut, and you feel like you get the dub, it's nice. Green Canyon has had, to Talia's point, we've had a recent success, but we've had a rough athletic 4 years. You know what I mean? And I think some kids have gotten, relative, Tyler, to other schools, I would agree. The sportsmanship the sportsmanship at our school, I would agree with what I agree that we have. I mean, compared to Weber County, Dan McClure can say the same. Like, it blows those schools out of the water in terms of general sportsmanship. I will acknowledge that when we have had the L's and not the dubs, Talia, we've gotten salty at times. We get rough. We get conspiratorial.
So does every school.
Everybody does.
That's not just Green Canyon.
Yep.
That is a general human trait.
And I think Talia can agree with that.
I'm not saying that we're like perfect.
There we go. So with that common ground, I will say this: congrats to you guys for doing well. Soccer, way to go! I appreciated the elegance and the quality of the nails. I was thinking the other day, like, that's gonna be hard with soccer though. And
I was gonna get them redone just before the dance. So I was like, wait till this weekend.
right, yeah. I mean, that's some real ouchies indeed. Okay, so can I answer the points after we get through some notes? I just want to make sure, Dane and Lucas, that we get through notes. Is that okay? Yeah. We left off last time. We were talking about the term limit idea, right? So we had for the house, how long were the terms?
They're 2 years.
2 years. You got them. And any term limits? No. And Spencer, you were saying like the pros and cons of it. One angle, you get variety, right? Well, with term limits, you get variety. Without it, Hamilton's like, keep rewarding those who do well. Okay. Let's get to the Senate. Sorry, what was that, Sarah?
I said no, never.
Okay, let's get to the Senate. Shifting over on that side, on that column, how long are those terms?
6 years.
6, Selena, yes, very good. 6 years indeed. So, write down 6-year terms. And if you think that, man, that's why like Orrin Hatch served for 38 years. That guy was on there forever, because if you win, just a couple elections, you're in there for a while, right?
It's like 10 That's more years, I think.
Sorry, say it one more time.
Is that like tenure?
It's similar to tenure. Like for teaching in high school, I mean, I can make mistakes, as we know. I apparently just did by letting it happen. I can make mistakes, but once you gain tenure, it's harder to get rid of them, right? for the Senate, once you've been there for 6 years and you've proven like a record, it's very hard to oust anybody in the Senate once they're on there. Does that make sense? It's very hard. Dane, it's a very good connection. It's sort of like tenure because you're there for 6 years. Now, guys, for some points, and you, when I say tenure, T-E-N-U-R,
Yeah, not 10 years.
yeah, not.
It used to be 10 years.
Yeah, and true. You're right. In most professions, yes. Yes. If you do well enough for 10 years, you get tenure, right? Yes, very good connection. But Dane, the Senate is similar. So my question for you is, why would the founders specifically? I think Talia, I think Trey, a couple of you were right on with saying why it is that representatives have to run for election every 2 years, right? We made sense. And remind me again, why is that? Why is that?
Just to make it so that you get a say. It's the people. Sorry, they're doing it for the people.
Exactly. They're supposed to be a mirror reflection of the people, right? For better or worse. The Senate, then, on that same token, for a couple more points, why is it in the Senate that they wanted them to serve 6 years? That's longer than the presidency. Why? That is a long. Censor myself. That's a long time. Yes, Spencer?
Continuity, like.
Okay, so one angle is continuity. In fact, I think Ellie maybe made the comment before of like stability. If you have people, one good thing about having people in there for a while is it does allow for stability. Senate's even more so. Because then they have not all 100 up for election every 6 years, they stagger it. So 2, 2, and 2. So a third of the Senate is up for election every 2 years. And in fact, I think, Kennedy, you were saying, like, when do these elections happen? So the Senate, like for us, I don't think Mike Lee and Mitt Romney, they're not up for Utah re-election this year, if that makes sense. Right? I don't think they are. Because they stagger it, because they want continuity. Did I see another hand raised?
Yeah, I
Sure.
just have a question. Wait, so you were saying that like they prove themselves after 6 years and it's kind of like 10 years?
In a way,
How
yeah.
would they prove themselves? I just don't get like how, can you get like ousted of the Senate in a few years?
You can, in general, get impeached. Any federal officer can get impeached, right? However, we usually think of the term for the presidency, because it's happened, and even
I
as we
didn't
get
know that.
to the court system, it's only ever been tried once, and then they still kept him on. They didn't convict him and get rid of him. You can do it for a federal officer. However, if there's a big enough scandal, which has happened a ton, usually the person steps down, right, and they realize this is bad, and they'll have a special election. Or if it's close enough to, yeah, that's true. Or if it's close enough to an election year, they'll finish the term, and then people will vote them out if they don't like them. That's usually how it happens.
Okay.
Yeah, Kennedy?
Trump was impeached, right?
Correct.
But
Trump
he
was
wasn't
the third
indicted.
president to get impeached, yes.
What does it mean? 'Cause
Okay.
I always thought like they were
I love
out, but
it.
then
You're
they're
right.
not.
Kennedy,
They're
you're not
still
alone.
there.
I'd probably say 80 to 90% of Americans, when they hear the term impeached, they mean, oh, they get kicked out of office.
So it's
Impeachment is the first step of the conviction process. But I do want to hold off on that because that's going to be the executive section, which is the next one. Does that make sense?
Explain what it was though.
Quickly, Gabe, quick.
Isn't it like, it's kind of like, for example, it's like charges against you.
Yes, that's
It's like
exactly
when you get
comparison.
arrested, someone tells
Yes.
you like, this is your crime. That's what.
Allegedly, you know, then their day in court is when they go to not the House, but the Senate, exactly. And they have the trial. In that trial, probably because the Republicans controlled it, they found
Not guilty.
President Trump not guilty.
But he's still president.
So he was impeached, right, by the House.
So, but that's kind of like in his record though. Like,
It is.
hey,
It is.
They claim that he done something illegal.
It
That's
is.
in his
That's kind
record,
of so
but he was
skewed,
found.
because if he actually did something illegal, but Republicans were in the court system.
But it also screw like,
Yeah.
what if he didn't do something illegal?
Yeah.
But you know,
True.
because the House,
Democrats
the House
Correct.
impeaches, and if it's a Democratic-controlled House, they can impeach someone even though
Right.
if they didn't, especially near election year,
Right.
because to try to change the voters' view.
And so, and this is the angle too, you don't want impeachment to be used as a political weapon, right? You don't. Unfortunately, Elliot, it can. Tulsi Gabbard, who is from Hawaii, she's a Democrat. She was the only Democrat to not vote for impeachment in the articles. And they're like, how dare you? She didn't prove herself, right, with the Democratic Party. And her reasoning was, you know, I don't like President Trump. I think some of the collusion things were a little iffy, but the FBI said there's no actual direct link between collusion and hurting the election. And I fear that this is just a political weapon. I'm not going to vote to impeach.
So she voted based on what she thought was actually right, not because no one was
Right.
Respect.
Well, not based on her political party.
Political party.
Does that make sense? And I got to give her respect. Whether you agree or disagree, she really felt like I didn't want it to become a political tool. So that's the difference. Shortly, we'll get more to it, but impeachment and then conviction.
That's what's so scary. Everything's getting more and more political.
She's in the House because they do the impeachment. They do the charges, right?
Oh,
Where the
so
cops
that's
come
why
and
the
arrest you.
Senate, like,
The Senate then does the actual trial, Judge Judy. Yep.
Yeah, then when people do that, they like get super, like, a lot of backlash, because when Mitt Romney did it, everybody was shut down.
Oh yeah, on the flip end of it then, right? Because in the actual Senate where they did it, he voted to convict President Trump, saying that this is grounds for abuse of power. And he's been consistent on that, and credit to him. Whether you agree or disagree with him, he has consistently felt that President Trump's moral character or lack thereof has been a huge problem as the head of state for our country. So Sophie, you're right on that. In the other way, he did it. And I hope that you as students can sort of give respect to say they thought for themselves, and that's good, right? That's
Didn't let their political party drive.
And they just
What I
they tried
think
to
is
do
kind
it.
of funny is the Democrats were praising Mitt Romney at the time, right?
Right.
They're like, oh yeah, he's such a good,
And now
But then now that he's like letting the nomination for the Supreme Court, they're like, how could you?
Totally.
You're horrible.
Totally.
It's like two-faced.
It's-
Everyone's a hypocrite.
It's unfortunately a weapon. So guys, you have 6-year terms. You also have there, Lauren, that no term limits, right? So 6-year terms under the Senate, no term limits. Now here's the tricky part. What's the good thing about having no term limits for the Senate? Stability.
The good people stay in.
The good people stay. Cream rises to the top. Like, let's go. If you're good, you get to stay in. That's also assuming, Kennedy, that people pay attention to the ballot, right? Which, as we talked about, they might not.
Oh, with the
What's the bad thing about, especially for the Senate, of no term limits?
They're there for so long.
There for so long. You guys, some people have said that Mitt Romney losing the 2012 election, they said, well, him going to the Senate is like a step down. Constitutionally speaking, Hamilton would have said it's a step up because you serve longer. You actually have more legislative power.
and you can like network.
You
can
can,
get-
you totally can. So it's
Go all
debatable.
hot
I
cars,
can
straight
see why,
underwear.
because media make the presidency really big. But it's a step up in some ways because you're there for so long. So the bad thing is what do you do, Hunter? You're trying to get him out, but you can't really get him out as easily. And Orrin Hatch was famous for 3 straight terms. So let's do the math, ladies and gentlemen. 3 straight terms as a senator would be how many years? Spencer's so dead inside. 18 years. Yes, 18 years. Guys, 18 years. For 3 straight terms, he said, don't worry, this is my last one. Don't worry, this is my last one.
Did he do that
And with
again?
each one, as he got older and older, more and more decrepit, he would like have these fun political ads where he's holding like his grandchildren or his great-grandchildren or like puppies to make himself seem like younger and cooler and hip.
Great
Just
grandchildren
make-
doesn't make you seem
But it
young.
made-
Voting him in though?
And they kept voting him in.
Well, then he should say. They're like, this is my last one, this is my last one. Well, if people want him in.
And that's what people say is, hey, keep voting him in. Others will say with the Senate rules, they favor you staying stable, and he would say, look, I know you might want Mike Lee to fill my seat. I know you might want Mitt Romney to fill my seat, and you might like him better as a candidate. But if I leave, then I forfeit my seat as the head of the Judiciary Committee, which means I forfeit my seat to help confirm nominations for judicial appointments. Try. Try.
Wait,
Try.
re-say that in a way
Yeah,
that I
I
don't
don't
understand.
understand.
He, on the Senate,
Too
not only is it
foreign.
scary when somebody stays long, because then, you know,
The power vacuum.
they stay for so long.
How?
In the Senate, you have seniority rules. So if I kept failing Olivia every year, and she were to be the super senior at 28, and she's here in school like, I can't pass grade candy. In theory, you would have some seniority rules, right? You'd have some power to claim, saying you got to check with me before you turn that assignment in late. You got to check with me. And the Senate rules state we're going to favor those seniority rules. Orrin Hatch, who's in there for more than 30 years, got to rise through the ranks and be the head of the Judiciary Committee. Now in the Senate, the Judiciary Committee, not only does it sound weird, but it also means that they get to confirm appointments. They're the ones who actually initially look at that person, Brett Kavanaugh, in those hearings on TV. They're the ones that actually do it, the Judiciary Committee, not the whole Senate. So if he is the head of that Judiciary Committee,
Which cases like go?
not
what
just which
party-
cases
what-
they come, but more so how does the interviews and the testimony of the witnesses, how does that happen? He is the judge in that oversight committee. So he's saying, oh, you want somebody else because you think they're younger and more connected to you?
Okay,
Interesting.
well,
If you vote for them and not for me, then you will lose seniority in this seat, and it's going to go to somebody else, and Utah won't be represented. Try me. For 3 straight terms, he did that. And so Utah's like, he's old, he's Skeletor. We don't want to get rid of him. You know, but you lose that seniority. Does that make sense? So Senate's like good because if they're good, keep getting in. But there are also some bad things because the terms are so long. Like I said before, I think I favor Hamilton saying, "May the best person win." Right? I think I favor that. But I also favor the Mexican style, which we'll get to a little bit later in World Civ. But the Mexican style is that 20 to 30% of each party's candidates that they put up for office have to be female. I really like that. That's my personal soapbox thing because it encourages more diversity without doing term limits. But maybe that's my own soapbox answer, and I don't want you to think that's the right answer.
Hamilton should have said that because he wasn't the best shot.
Okay, that was bad. I'll give you a point. That was pretty bad. That's like a dad joke. Woo! That's a pretty bad dad joke, but I'll give it to you. Okay, so now let's shift back onto the House. Garrett, you had your hand up from before.
Oh yeah, if like Romney made it in, what would happen? Like they get re-elected every like 6 years. So if you got him, it would be on.
So you mean like if he had beat Orrin Hatch one of the years? You're saying?
Yeah.
Or
like because he's in there, right? So like, and then you're in for president.
Oh! I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying. Yes, they would have either a special election that happens. So like,
Would he get to nominate someone?
he wouldn't have the power. He might give some advice, but traditionally for interim appointments, the governor, with advice from the state legislature, will make a nomination, and that person will fill the vacancy. But usually the person, when they retire, because it is sort of an even year, they'll have an election, even though the term was only 4 years or whatever, that fall. Does that make sense? Like if he had won, and if he were a senator, his term may have only been 4 years, and they'd have to have the election like that fall for it. Yeah, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Why isn't the president run to like the Senate or the House after his presidency?
They can. They absolutely can. We have not seen that happen. They might see it as below them, beneath them, because they'd rather get paid 6-figure salaries giving speeches at local colleges, which, you know, money-wise makes sense. But I have a sneaking suspicion, ladies and gentlemen, that if a Democratic president were to win here in the next, 10, 15 years, I think Barack Obama would be a nominee for the court. Sort of a tapped move, if that makes sense, right? I really do.
He's running for this election or the future?
I think, yeah, if Biden were to win here, I wouldn't be surprised within, and if there were a vacancy, and things like that. Like if the things lined up, I wouldn't be surprised.
I'm concerned for Biden's health.
Ellie, yeah?
Wait, so where would Obama be placed? Sorry, I didn't really catch.
I said I would not be surprised if a Democratic president were to win at some point next 10, 20 years, whatever, Obama would be a nominee for the Supreme Court.
Is there an age limit for presidency? Not like like the maximum. Like how can you like?
Well, we get to it with
when are you too
presidency.
old to be president? That's
There's no too old. There's too young, which we'll get to.
So you can have dementia and still be president.
Hello, Supreme Court.
Oh.
Meaning they're so old on the court. So now let's get to one more thing here, and I'll get Kennedy and Lucas and Dane's questions, I promise, before the class is over. Back on the House side, the third thing you're gonna write down for the House, you guys tell me, like, we've already mentioned a couple times, they're serving 2-year terms. What is their character, Hunter? Like, if you were electing somebody for the House, what are you expecting them to do? Let me say it that way. If you're a voter, a constituent who puts them in office, what are you hoping they do in the House of Representatives?
Make good choices.
Say it one more time.
Make good choices.
Make good choices. So you want them to think on their own?
Represent us.
Spencer says, I don't care if you're a freaking genius. You follow what I say. Do what I want. If I want Justin Bieber Day, make it happen. He's Canadian. Don't care. I want Justin Bieber National Day, right? I'm passionate with Justin Bieber, okay?
Really?
No, not really. But Spencer,
I was like, wow, did not see that.
No. Yeah. Forget poop and it's fever. No. Dismiss that myth. But Spencer, yeah, you are right that like you want to represent us. Maybe you want them to make good decisions, and now, Sarah, I think that's more so what it is. But at least originally intended, the founder said.
Do what the party says. Do what party people.
The people. So here it is, guys. The third thing you're going to write down is originally meant to be trained monkeys.
What? Can you repeat that?
Originally meant to be trained monkeys. See?
The correct lingo, like, is there like a more reformed term, or is it just like,
We'll get to it.
Okay.
The back page there at the end there, it's like, this sounds so ghetto. Modes of representation. I'll give you the AP wording. But I want you to understand, because I will have this on the test. Hint, hint, hint. Yes, we have animals on the test, as we've already seen. By the way, have your test graded. I just got to put in Power School. We've had 11 perfect scores, which is awesome. You know, I know you had half the test, so it was easier, but kudos to you guys. Olivia even did more when she didn't have to for fun. She got still all of them correct. So good. So did Esther. Esther did the whole thing, and she did some like, I was gonna say banging essays. That sounds so bad. She did amazing essays. Like she turned those 3 responses into essays. They were like really. That was AP level. That was way good. That was way good. Okay. But anywho, originally meant to be trained monkeys. What does that mean?
You like tell them to do something.
Right, Dane? Yeah. That's exactly it. Monkey see, monkey do. So, like, if you're a good enough trainer, you can get a monkey to do a lot of things.
Oh yeah, there's.
Some might feel like I could have had a monkey do a better job as sub yesterday. I don't know. You're like, so you could have had like a Sammy's like, yeah, you're darn too. Hey,
really funny.
Ken and I, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, like Olivia, it was like, what did he say?
But you could say, Dane, a trained monkey could like do a better, you know, you could say that. So, but a trained monkey here, Lauren, is supposed to be a direct representation of what you want them to do, right? Monkey see, monkey do, monkey with no attitude. Like that's the idea. You do what we say. So in the house's original conception, Brooke, you can see that they wanted these guys and gals to follow, the guys in the original conception, to follow exactly what the people said. So even if the person thought that this was a really dumb idea, and I'll go back to the Justin Bieber idea of like, we need to have a resolution saying it's a National Justin Bieber Day on his birthday or whatever, and it's a federal holiday, and let's make it happen. And if everybody in the Utah District 1, Tolly were to say, this is what needs to happen, if everybody did that, even if Rob Bishop, who's still in office, right, even if he thought this is the dumbest thing ever, what would he be expected to do?
He'd do it.
He'd do it, because if the majority of your constituency, the people who voted you in, do it, you got to do it, right? The founders.
If you didn't, then you wouldn't get voted about.
Exactly. And if you had attentive voters, they'd be like, you're out. You're out. And you're gone, okay? So that has to be a trained monkey idea. Now, in parentheses, I want you guys to write down is direct representation of people. Direct, still under the house, but direct representation of people.
Can I say something interesting about trained monkeys?
Direct representation of people. Before you said, does that make sense? That's the intent, Kennedy, or should I say Kennedy, or however he said your name.
He didn't even try. He was like, 10.
K-Sizzle. But that's the idea of just a mirror reflection of the people, for better or worse. Whatever we say. That was the inception of the house. Yeah, Gabe?
So, like, in 1880, there's this baboon who was a railroad operator in South Africa. And he actually, like, he was trained to, like, change the signals for the railroad and, like, do the levers to change the rails. And because the reason why is the original operator lost both of his legs. So he didn't want to lose his job, so he got a monkey and trained it. And then the people was like, and then the company was like, is that true? They didn't believe him.
Right.
So they came and found out it was true, and so they gave the monkey away. She got paid 20 cents a day and half a bottle of booze a week. And he worked there for 9 years before he died.
What's the monkey going to do with 20 cents?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the baboon in South Africa?
Yeah.
House of Representatives, 1791. Does that analogy make sense? Because it's like, we train you, you do exactly, and we'll give you some wage and do it. Don't complain.
But it's different now?
It's different now. So your instinct of what the party does isn't wrong, right? There's some truth to that. But Inception is like, just follow what they say. Be a trained monkey. Now let's shift over to the Senate. What were they originally meant to be? You're talking 6 years here, right? A long time. Some would even say stronger than George Washington. Or
They're trained gorillas.
They're the silverbacks. No animal analogy here.
Okay, I was like, is it compared to an animal?
No. All right.
Is it an animal?
Is it an animal?
Bigger than a bread. Okay. So, no, it's not an animal here, but what were they originally meant to be? So let's say, think about it this way, Sammy, did people vote in senators previous to the 17th Amendment?
No.
Spencer's like, no, like they didn't, right? So who chose, guys, for some points, who chose those senators? And then we crammed it in at the end there. 17th Amendment said people get to vote them in, but prior to the 17th Amendment, who?
Was it the
Not the president,
House?
not the House,
court?
no,
The governor?
The Congress?
get warmer.
State legislature.
State legislatures. They
What's
chose.
the difference between state legislatures and government?
So they're very similar though. That's what I say when you say governor is very. So governor is going to be the executor, right, of the state.
He's like the president.
He's the
of
president of the state.
And
You
then
got
state
it.
legislature
Is the Congress? Yep.
Oh, okay.
Yep. It's that whole federal
That
thing
makes a lot
where they
more
like
sense.
vie against one another, right? President Trump's had some standoffs with like governors for pandemic things and what they've done or not done. But state legislatures would choose. Now here's the thing: a state legislature, who were they trying to choose to be these senators?
People in their own party?
One could be eventually they felt like it got corrupt, right? That's why they got rid of it. But the intention, at least, the founders said we want the state legislatures to choose these individuals, to look from a bird's eye view, Hunter, across the whole state and purview and look and find somebody, Sam.
Is it to like see, like represent us, like certain state?
So A, it's going to be representing the state as a whole, right? So they want to have the state's interests in mind. But they wanted to choose people that did have the state interest in mind, but maybe not as much as the House. The House was going to really reflect what they wanted. They wanted the state legislatures. Heather, any thoughts as to who the state legislature would want to choose? No.
People with money?
Eventually got money and
Education.
networking. Esther?
I was gonna say like the most popular or like educated.
Say it one more time.
Like the most popular person who is educated.
Now you get to it. We want to find, and you guys know, like if I were to ask, you could tell me. List for me the top 5 most educated, intellectual, cerebral-minded people in your graduating class of 2021. Don't actually do it, because it's recorded. But Esther, if I were to have you do that exercise, you'd come up to be like, I gotta find the best like intellectual person to really think things through. That's what the senators were intended to be. So guys, you want to write down under the Senate, originally meant to be detached from the people. Originally meant to be detached from the people. And in parentheses, Hunter, I'd say wise village leaders. Okay, they were meant to be detached from the people. Wise village leaders. So yes, Esther and Sarah, you gotta have some popularity to be known, like, meaning in olden times, if you had a question, philosophical or physical, who would you go ask? Like, Farmer Joe down the road, he is so smart, you gotta go talk to him. That's the dude they wanted to be in the Senate. Who would think cerebrally, who would think intellectually, who thought big picture, not just what's good for our state, but what's good for the whole country. Help us not be dumb. That's who they chose. So state legislatures were like, who's that person? Who's like the wise village leader? I'm not talking like walking around with a range stick and like doing chants and stuff, but something like that.
It's like the movie The Village. Like they had like the leaders and they all knew that there was beasts, but they were trying to protect them, but they didn't like, they weren't honest with the people they were trying to like.
The Senate, in that analogy, that sort of works, okay? And the weirdness of the movie aside.
I love that.
In the idea of those leaders
Yeah.
being detached from the people and maybe keeping some wise from people and stuff.
They wanted to
But
keep them safe, but they couldn't.
They were trying to think big picture,
Yeah.
right? So if you hated your senator, could you vote them out?
No.
Not really. Your state legislature could, like if they're really being bad. But they wanted it to be detached from the people. So Sammy, they maybe made bigger picture ideas and decisions that were just better for people. That was it. So wise village leaders. That's the idea. Okay. Let's finish this off. Let's finish this section off here. Can I give you 6 of those points I took away if we push through no break today?
Sure.
Okay. All right. Kaylee, is that cool?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What did I say?
Get points, 6 points.
Oh, yes. I'll give you 7 points because she actually was listening. That's great. That's great. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I believe you do. I just like certain kids are really good at either paying attention and making it look like they're paying attention and they're really not. And certain kids are really good at being like, screw this, but they're super absorbing everything. So Kaylee,
Thank you.
I don't know which group you fall into there, right?
Well, at least now you know.
Oh, now I know that you actually are absorbing. That's great. Okay, so under the house. Okay, last thing I'm going to put down here for the house. For 5 more points, guys, you tell me there's only one type of bill that has to start in the house. It has to start there. Like any type of bill, like when we debate next Friday, it'll have to go through the Senate and the House, regardless. But Hunter, there's only one type that has to start in the House. Like even if the senator is like, I want to start it here, like you can't start it in the House. Or excuse me, you can't start it in the Senate. You can only start it in the House. Does anyone know what type, what category? If a bill falls in this category, you have to start it in the House. Sammy? Origination clause, good. That's
Revenue clause?
revenue. Hunter, break it down. Let's get layman's terms.
Yep, it's a raising revenue?
Raising what's the word?
Revenue?
Not venue, but
Revenue.
revenue, which means
Money.
money. Yeah, guys, here's the last thing. Any revenue or tax bill.
I gotta read it.
Hunter, it's a Friday. It's
It's
okay.
Friday.
It's okay. Any revenue or tax bill has to start in the House. Any revenue or tax bill has to start in the House. Oh, yeah, I hope you didn't dismantle Tyler there.
No, he probably went to my dad's room. He sits in that room all the time.
Well, with that said, I hope I'm sure he's just cooling off. I hope that's the case. But anyway, I know what you think. Like Pierre doesn't care about Tyler like I do, but usually it seems like his MO, like he just cools off. And I think it's, okay.
Move on.
Any revenue or tax bill has to start here. Why? Why did the founder say a revenue? Like anytime you're raising money, or the original, you have to originally start it there. Like anytime you're starting to raise money, why is it that it starts in the House?
Is it because like they want the people to have a voice, and since originally the House of Representatives is supposed to be direct representation of the people?
Right. And that's exactly it. You hit on the head, and I got some points there too. Because the problem is you want, if it's a direct mirroring of the people, the things, Brendan, they were most worried about is funds, money. Think about like England, right? They were freaked out, like, no taxation without representation, right?
It's like they freaked out because they're like, oh, here we go again.
Yeah, and so they're like, look, we'll give more power to the federal government, but you have to follow exactly. Sorry, that's not. That's what better. That's as tough as Justin Bieber. My feelings for him. I mean. but
I thought you stand Putin.
I do. But Canada had no. Sorry. It's more of a meme. Putin's more of a meme because he's so scary.
Have you seen his shirtless pictures though?
Yeah. But guys, but be aware here that they wanted to start in the House because, Gabe, you're right, they wanted to be directly represented for the people. They were freaking out about taxation without representation. They're like, look, we'll give more power to the federal government, But you better make sure that we have the exact initial say. And if that representative is making a mistake, if Kennedy Palmer, if she is a representative for the 1st District, and she proposes a tax hike, oh, in 2 years she's gone. She's gone. Right? That's the idea where you follow exactly what the people want. Because the idea is we don't want high taxes. That's from our history, which has made us more conservative than many European countries. Sarah?
Wait, so after they propose the money bill or whatever in the House, does it go to the Senate?
Yes.
It just has to start in the House, but it goes to both.
Yes, and for any law that we talk, like any Senator Olivia can start a bill
And it
and
goes
House.
to both except for money.
Except for money, it has to start in the House. So Senator, like if Senator, Chadwick? No. Okay, Chadwick? Olivia Chadwick, okay. If you as a senator, renowned, wise village leader say, I think we should start a tax bill, they'll say, get that corn out of my face, you can't start it here. It's got to go to the House first, and then we can talk about it. You see how that works?
Is it the reason why like taxes is like one of the controversial subjects? Is because like
Historically, for us.
Because like
Yep.
we started a revolution and like kind of kicked out the previous government.
Life, liberty, and property, as that economist said, right? Forget pursuit of happiness, it's really what it is.
It's just money.
Esther?
So if there's a bill that like requires like a tax hike or like reduction, does the whole bill go through the House or just the?
Great question. If the preponderance of information on the bill, meaning the majority of information, is really a tax hike, it has to start in the House. However, almost every bill has some appropriation, like money has to be attached to it. That can start in the Senate, right? But if it's mainly a tax bill, for instance, like Obamacare, that's going to start in the House, if that makes sense. So you can have, Esther, some things that start in the Senate that have something to do with taxes, raising or lowering, but not like the massive part of it. Okay, let's go to Senate. The last thing under Senate, let's go on this side. So the House, yes, has the ability to start these tax revenue bills. Okay, for 10 points. JC, 10 points. You have an opportunity here to get 10 points for your class. Don't help her! Don't help her! 10 points. So we know Cadesley has been, maybe one of those categories where she's absorbing it, but I don't know if she is. JC's been very astute, like, yeah, sounds good. I don't know if she's actually paying attention. We'll see. 10 points. 10 points. The Senate has something they can do. We mentioned it in this class already. That the House doesn't. The House does not have this power to do, and they have this power in the Senate that makes things go super long. Super long. What is this funny sounding term? And I'll give you one hint. It sort of sounds like a vacuum dust something. What's this term? It means that they can prolong debate, unlimited debate in the Senate. Don't help her. Don't help her. Gabe was asking at the beginning. Yep, he was asking about it. You just keep talking forever and ever and ever. Guys, write down. They can filibuster. They can filibuster.
Isn't there ones that gone for? I know like there's one that was super long. Like historic. There was like
More than 3 days.
Yeah.
More than 3 days straight. Guys, on Monday we'll talk about it. So, JC, that may have been unfair because you may not have heard it because he mentioned at the beginning of class, but filibuster. The Senate has the power to do unlimited debate. We'll talk more about it. Remind me, Brendan. Here's the key word: adult diapers.
No, did he have a bucket? Here's the key thing.
The guy had a bucket, but currently
Diapers.
just remind him to say, "Hey, Pierre, adult diapers." Because I want you to know about like how bad these filibusters are.
They come prepared.
I know about it.
Prepare.
Hey, he gets 3 strikes.
Now wait a second. Parks and Rec filibuster thing. That was like city council thing. Hey,
For our presentations next week, can we use the board? Like,
yes. Yeah. That I will allow that.
oh yeah, and per se, it could happen, and it's realistic that it could happen, but it won't happen. Like, not like it's not realistic that it will happen, but it's not fantastical.